What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. Hey, rough weekend for me. Missed 2 days, but we're back. We're picking it up. We're doing the best we can, and it looks like I'm crying. It feels like tears are coming out of my eyes, and it's probably just because it's getting late, aka it's 8:15 p.m. and I'm super tired. But first, I want to share just a continuation of the story I've been telling of God directing my steps, God leading me in a relationship with Megan and to pursue Megan ultimately. And last video I shared all the reasons why I thought I would never date her, and there's a moment that shifted everything, and I'll backtrack from that moment. But one random day in middle of January 2014, the very beginning of spring of sophomore year, a guy comes home who he was just couch surfing. I hardly knew this guy, and he had just gone to a life group, and he comes back and he's like, "Hey, I met someone named Allie there, and she said that she knows who you should date." And I was like, "What?" And I know Allie, I love Allie. And I'm like, "Ben, like, who was it? Like, what did she say?" And I was not expecting this at all. But Ben goes, "She says that you should date Megan." And I literally go, "Megan?" Like, I just explained to y'all 2 days ago how I knew that I would never date Megan. Like, she was on the no way list. I go, "Megan?" In kind of this, like, shock, disgust even. Not quite disgust, that's a little strong. And then I go, Megan. And then I go, Megan. I need to go pray. I'll talk to y'all later. Literally, I go to this room that we had set aside called the prayer room, just inside of our house, and went to go journal, because what happened in that moment is all sorts of dots started connecting of experiences I had had in just the 5-6 weeks leading up to that moment. Really, just even most of them in the past 3 weeks before that moment happened. And some of them are lighthearted, like a game that was going around in our friend group was this like game about an island, and it's like different questions, and one of them was like, what would be your animal if you could have an animal there and to be your companion or whatever, to be your best friend? And I picked a lion, and they asked why, and I said because lions are so deep, like there's so much imagery to them, metaphorical value to them, like it's just, there's a richness. It's more than just an animal. Lions represent so much. And anyways, in that question, in the island game, that meant like, that's what you value most in a spouse one day. And Megan, who I knew as a friend, was just super deep. Like, everything exists like 10,000 feet below the surface, just really deep. And I was like, huh, that's weird. Some other things I realized, a couple of them, again, lighthearted, just preferences that I thought I had. Like, I thought I would want to date someone that's incredibly ambitious. And what I realized is that I would actually rather date someone that is kind of like not like kind of like from the perspective of someone that's super ambitious, that they would consider this person like a nobody. Like, they're not trying to ride some ladder, not trying to be somebody, just kind of like an unknown, just average person. And I think I realized that I really value the purity of heart that oftentimes is found with people that aren't trying to win some type of race. Similarly, like, Megan doesn't come from means financially. I thought I would want someone that had similar goals in terms of financial whatever, and I realized that I didn't. I didn't want to date someone that that cared about money or that had money, because again, of the purity of heart. My parents are, well off, and so I knew that, like, eventually whoever I date is going to be aware that my parents are well off. That doesn't mean that I'm well off, but still, if you were a money chaser, I wouldn't be like the last person on the list of potential people you could date, and I didn't want that in the back of my head, like, I didn't want to worry about, is someone just trying to date me because maybe I'll have a lot of money one day, That's so weird. And so I really cherished how just unseen Megan was, even in the way she dressed. Like, she was super simple, like t-shirts and jeans, not super dressed up, not a bunch of makeup. Like, I remember thinking one week, like, how I didn't want to date anyone that owned whatever brand boots were going around, and like everyone had this pair of boots. I was like, I don't want to date anyone with those boots. Like, to me, it was like, if you're playing the game of trying to be, I don't know, like trying to dress up a beauty or a sense of self-esteem, like, I don't want to play that game, I don't want to feed that beast. And like, if you wear a ton of makeup and you get your hair done all the time, literally, I was thinking, as a pretty frugal person, I was like, I don't want to, like, pay for that. Like, I don't want to foot that bill one day if someone has a really high expense line item for cosmetics and stuff. And at this point, I'm not, like, super disparaging, of course, and everyone can live their own life, but I just started realizing I had these preferences that Megan really fit that I didn't know I had before. A couple others that were interesting. One, I had mentioned that I thought I preferred brunettes. What I learned is that I actually would want to, like, I actually did prefer blondes, I guess. Which, again, sounds so weird to say it like that. But Megan has this beautiful, like, gold, almost strawberry, but not. It's just like this gold blonde hair. And it's awesome. It's a long story how I realized that I preferred blondes, but I realized that I did. And especially if there's just that depth and that purity of heart at the same time, And a couple other things that were interesting. I had this specific memory from the first week of January where we were at this life group retreat, just hanging out with our friends, and anyways, I had this moment where I felt attracted to Megan, which was weird for me. And as I was going to bed that night, I was thinking, like, that was so weird. Like, why would I feel attracted to her? Because I know that I'm not. Like, I don't get it. And again, was a fool, It's like, it wasn't clicking in my head at all, because that's how I was processing it. Like, God, I was like praying, like, God, why did that happen? Like, why did I even feel that? That doesn't make sense. Another thing happened within the first 2 weeks of January, or maybe the end of December, and we were at this some type of one-night church worship night thing. It got kind of crazy. Anytime someone uses the word tabernacle and fire in the name of their event, it might be a little bit of a crazy charismaniac type of situation. And I knew, as Megan's friend, that those environments could be difficult for her emotionally, especially if she's not experiencing what other people might be experiencing in terms of, you know, spiritual crazy experiences. It was just like she would kind of like shut down, kind of like not engage. So as her co-leader at the time, you know, I'm thinking like, and as things were getting kind of rowdy, for me it was like, man, this is hilarious and fun, and as long as God gets glory, we're chilling. But I was thinking like, man, I wonder how she's doing, because she was just kind of like sitting down and not talking or moving or singing or, you know, like just kind of like there. And I was like, man, she's probably struggling. So I was just kind of like praying that she'd be okay or whatever, that she would still get something out of this night, whatever. And this was this random church that we were visiting. It's not like we had a lot of connection with anyone there. We didn't know what it was going to be like before we went. But this guy comes up to me who is one of the ministry facilitators of this event. And he comes to me with what he says is a prophetic word. And he's like, bro, are you thinking about a girl right now? And I'm like, I was like, whoa, that's actually kind of crazy. Because I was literally thinking about Megan. Is she okay? You know? And I'm like, actually, yeah. And he just starts laughing. And he's like, bro, ask her out. Ask her out, bro. I mean, if God sees, like, if he cares this much to tell me that you're thinking about her, like, bro, you gotta ask her out, bro. And I'm like, and he's just like dying laughing, and I'm like chuckling, because I'm like, this guy has no clue that like that's not the context that I was thinking about a girl, you know? Like, you got it wrong, dude. You were almost right, but then you were wrong. But fast forward, right, to this moment where Ben comes home from Life Group, and Allie's randomly planting this seed, like, you should ask out Megan. And I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden, all these things start coming to my mind, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm like, what if that guy was actually hearing from God, even though he was being a total goofball? Like, maybe this is what? And then, so I go to the prayer room, and there were some other things too, but, you know, you get the gist. Those are some ways where all of a sudden I become immediately persuaded that, like, I think I really like Megan, and I just never realized it until now. And I didn't even think about realizing it until now. So then I go to pray, because then it's like, God, am I supposed to ask her out? Because just because I like her doesn't mean we should be dating, you know? And I'll have to find this exact journal entry, but there was one verse. So I'm just praying, a verse comes to my mind. I read it, it's encouraging. And the first verse came to my mind, I don't remember it. It was Isaiah something or Jeremiah something. And it was more just like the purity of my motives, intentions. I feel like God talked to me about that for a little bit. I was like, great, it's awesome. Yeah, Lord, open hands, like whatever you want to do, you know. And then I got one more verse, which again, I don't remember the reference off the top of my head. But I look it up, and it's basically when Jesus sends out the 72. I think it's in Luke 10. And he gives them these instructions. He goes, go up to the house and give it your greeting. If your peace rests on it, then stay there. If not, let your peace return to you. And that was what I interpreted was, again, the context of that actual verse is not about people asking people out, okay? So calm down, whoever it is out there that needed to calm down. But what I felt like God was encouraging me in my context by bringing that verse to my mind, which I didn't know that verse. I just had like Luke 10, whatever, popping in my head. I look it up, and that happens to be the verse that came to my mind that I felt like God wanted to share. So anyways, practical takeaway, God's like, hey, go for it. I'm sending you out. I'm commissioning you. Just like I sent the 72, I'm sending you to go up to this house, go up to Megan, and give it your greeting. Like, feel free, like, ask her, you know. And she says yes, then, like, stay there, you know, like, date her. And she says no, let your peace return to you. And that was so great for me, especially as I shared about my senior year of high school. Like, I didn't have all these great dating experiences. And so I didn't know what I was doing, first of all, but it helped me to realize that either way, I get peace. Like, as long as I honor God, I get peace, and I don't have to fear rejection. I don't have to just like prioritize myself, or how will this reflect on me, or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna go up to the house and give it my greeting. Like, I'm just gonna ask Megan, and if she says yes, awesome, and if she says no, awesome, because either way, I get peace from God. And so my focus going into that conversation with Megan was, I just want to honor God. Like, if I don't, I just don't want to manipulate her. I don't want to persuade her. I don't want to woo her. Like, I just want to ask her straight up. And if she says yes, cool. If she says no, her loss. You know, like, I know I'm going to be a great husband one day because I love God, and I'm going to die for my wife like Jesus died for the church, you know, at least, you know, in a emotional, hypothetical sense. You know, I'm not like trying to die young, you know, intentionally. I would much rather die every day and sacrifice my life in a living surrender. But we'll see how long of a life I live. The point is, asked her out. I actually asked her to be my girlfriend, just point blank, out of thin air. Said, hey. Well, so I texted her, hey, can we get lunch next week, whatever. She says yes, great. We go to lunch, and I say, this might be kind of out of left field, but I want to be your boyfriend. I don't know exactly how I said it, but literally that's what it said. Like, I want you to be my girlfriend. I want to be your boyfriend. Like, I want to be in a relationship with you. But again, like, it's not like I've been flirting with you, so if you're not ready for that, like, we could do some coffee dates, you know? Like, we don't have to just jump into this. I just want you to know I'm ready to jump into this, so I don't need to, like, evaluate you any further. I have all the clarity that I need, because I felt like God opened my eyes. Like, I literally was like, if I don't ask Megan out ASAP, like, someone else is going to realize how amazing she is, and they're going to ask her out, and I'm going to feel terrible for the rest of my life. You know, like, it's like in these moments of prayer, and there was a couple, probably 2 weeks between that day when Ben came home and me actually having that conversation with Megan. But man, in those 2 weeks, I was just like becoming convinced that this is the dream girl that no one realizes the dream girl. And I just realized it, and I'm not telling anybody. You know, like, I'm keeping it to myself. And I did, and then later I told some people. But I was afraid to process with other people, because I'm like, look, if I tell you what I'm processing through, you're gonna like her, and then you're gonna struggle with this, and I'm just gonna do what I know is what I'm supposed to do. In retrospect, that was a little foolish, but thankfully it worked out. That's all I really want to share today. I've talked for long enough, but man, God was super involved in connecting the dots for me and opening my heart and showing me who Megan was and is that I didn't see before. I was super blinded to her as a romantic interest, as a potential spouse, and God, like, just blew the whole thing up. Just removed all the lies that I thought were my preferences, showed me that she's the girl of my dreams, and then blessed me to ask her out. And then she said yes. She said yes to this crazy dude. To the 5'5" dude. And then we had the prayer team praying up that I would grow. And then she grew 1/4 of an inch. So now I'm a full inch shorter than her. It used to be 3/4 of an inch. So then we shut the prayer team down. We said, cancel y'all's prayers. Stop praying those prayers. They ain't working. You're praying to the wrong God or something. And anyways, that's another story for another day. But the one preference that I thought I had for my spouse to be shorter than me, even that, I have loved being the same height or being shorter than my wife. And one reason I love it is that I'm paying it forward to the next generation. Like, my boys should be taller than me because I chose to date and marry Megan, who is taller than me. And so, hey, if you're watching this one day, Beckham or Hudson, you can thank your daddy. But really, thank God, because he changed my heart. Totally God. I did not date Megan because it was my idea, because I thought that she was who I wanted to date. Like, God took over the whole thing. It became him sending me out. Like, seriously, guys, for me, it was very spiritual. It was not Jeremy's making a move. It was, if I don't ask her out, I'm disobeying. And so I'm terrified. So I will. Yes, Lord. And I believe in faith that you will, like, grow my affections for her. But even though this isn't who I expected to like, I believe that I do, you know. But in my own flesh, I would have just wanted to suss that out for a little while, you know? Like, am I just making this up? Like, what? I don't know, you know? But I trust in God, and I'm so thankful that I did. So thank you, Lord, for your direction. That's all I got for y'all today. Sorry I said that 3 minutes ago, but I'm seriously over and out. Love y'all. Talk to y'all soon. Life is worship. God is love.